Hello, everyone. Welcome to Progress Junior Golf with Live Sport Now and the England Golf Young Ambassadors. My name's Steve Jackson. Remember me? And this is Ian Waterhouse.
Who are you? Where's Jen?
Absolutely. She did a fantastic job sitting in for me last a couple of weeks ago. So thanks very much.
It's good to have you back, Steve. It's good to have you back. But Jen, if you're watching, I do miss you as well.
Yes. So just so you're aware, I was in Portugal on a family holiday, so unfortunately I couldn't make it. But I did play some golf out there, I'm pleased to say. So, actually, whilst I was playing my golf, I thought of a podcast on the back of that because I played with my round of golf, a couple of rounds of golf with my 16-year-old son, and it was the first time he ever played 18 holes of golf, kind of thing. So it was fascinating for me from a parent's point of view to basically go, wow, this is almost like a complete beginner I'm playing golf with here, and that's something where I thought, wow, how does a parent deal with that when they're taking their son out for the first time, trying to introduce them to the sport, trying to get them involved, but at the same time knowing full well that 18 holes with someone who barely played the game before, it can be a long day, kind of thing.
How did he get on?
Pretty good. There was a couple of holes he outdrove me. There was a couple of holes where neither of us lost a ball, so that's pretty high standards we'd set for ourselves on the day. So we played Penalonga and Quinta de Marino. So
very nice.
Thanks very much for both of the clubs for letting us play the golf courses, and thanks very much for all that. Anyway, right, I digress. So this podcast is all about junior golf. It's about the next generation of golfers. It's about getting more boys and girls playing the game of golf. Absolutely. This is show number 41. Now, regular viewers to the Progress Junior Golf podcast will know that we look at a different subject each time we do it. And tonight we're going to be chatting about something which, we talked about probably on a regular occasion on the program, and in particular in the news section, because we're going to be talking today, we're going to be looking at junior golf tours. Now, quite often we've included some of the results from some of these and the stories from the events during the news section about these junior golf tours, and many people actually involved with these tours have actually been on the show as guests, and we're very grateful that they have come on. But I think it's probably important that we do take a closer look at junior golf tours out there in the UK and Ireland, because, they're not all the same. They have different ways of going about trying to encourage juniors to play in the game, trying to get competitive golf out there for juniors. So I think it's important that we do look at these subjects in a little bit more detail. Personally speaking, I've got a bit of experience. I've worked for several junior golf tours, both as an organizer, secretary, media consultant, photographer, and of course, Ian, yourself as well. You've got first experience of doing this very similar as well.
Yeah, we've broadcast a few junior golf tours, so very, very familiar with this subject. And can I say as well, as always, this podcast, the Progress Junior Golf Podcast, is interactive with you watching at home or wherever you are. So please do get in touch with us. Talk to us. We can see your comments. The live chat, the best place to do it is at Live Sport Now on YouTube, where this has been broadcast as well. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn. But if you do it over at YouTube or Twitter, etc., we can see your comments and even put them on screen. So we would love to hear from you. Have you played on a junior golf tour? Do you have a child who does? And tell us your experience in the comments section. This isn't just me, Steve, and our brilliant guests talking for a solid hour. We want to hear it from you as well. So please do get in touch with us. We can see them. We are live. It is 8:05 right now, or Wednesday, the 9th of August, unless you're watching this on the replay on Sunday. But there we go. So we are live right now. It generally is. So please do get in contact with us. We can see your comments. This is your show as well, so get in touch with us.
And actually, you mentioned there, if you are watching the repeat or if you're watching this at a later date, please get in touch anyway, because we'd love to hear your thoughts on the podcast, about possible podcasts you might like us to cover, or if you just want to talk about the subject that we are looking at, we're more than welcome we're more than happy to cover it at a later date and go into some of the comments and some of the questions which may be raised as far as the podcast is concerned. And I'll mention obviously the fact that you've obviously been involved in some of the junior golf tour events, and obviously you've been involved with the pro tour events as well. You see, so this podcast, we're going to touch a little bit on that as well, and how it may be might be similar, might be very different from the junior events. Now, I also have to mention as well, talking about pro golf, we've got a very special guest, pre-recorded interview with one of the biggest golfers in the world, really, legends on the European Tour, Stephen Gallacher, former Ryder Cup player. He has set up his own junior golf tour a few years ago north of the border. So we're going to hear from him about his experience and why he did it, how he goes about it, who he uses. And he's also as we covered in the last podcast a couple of weeks ago, he's also the junior Ryder Cup captain as well. So someone who's got a very, very heavy interest in junior golf, and delighted to manage to have a chat with him at the Belfry a few weeks ago. Now, the one thing which, well, certainly myself, possibly yourself as well, and even Stephen, we've got a lot of experience in junior golf, a lot of experience in junior golf tours, but perhaps the one thing which we do lack is we've never played in any. Whether you've ever played in a junior golf tour, Ian? No. So we obviously need to get that.
I don't know if there were any when I was a little nipper.
No, probably not. There's I know some tours now. So, for example, which we will cover into a bit more detail. I think the British Junior Golf Tour, they started about 18, 19 years ago. So that they might well have been one of the very first, or at least certainly one of the first, which is still around now anyway. So, but yeah, look, so we need to get a little bit of experience as someone who has played in these events. And I'm delighted to say that we do have exactly that. We've got England Golf Young Ambassador Olivia Whittle. She's played in a number of different junior golf tour events over the years. And I think she probably will be in between now and the end of this year, and also next year as well. So it'll be fascinating to hear her experience. Actually, I thought it was quite funny. Your holding screen that we had at the start of the show actually had a photo of Olivia on there. I don't know if you're aware of that, Ian.
Yeah, I know exactly. Yeah, absolutely. There it is again, Luke, absolutely, for anybody. And there is, in the white. There.
That's it. Yes. So a nice photo. Bear in mind, we stitched up a little bit in the last podcast, which you came on with a less flattering photo, shall we say? But great to have Olivia on. Fingers crossed her Wi-Fi connection is going to be okay, because we were having a few issues with that. Right, good.
Well, she's in the background, looking ready. So I think we are going to have Olivia. He's going to be on. Look, I can see her smiling at the minute now.
Good.
Yeah, she's laughing now as well. Don't worry, Olivia. No one can see you right now. Don't worry. So you can swear at me all you want.
Right. Right. First things first, and let's cover the latest junior golf news. Then I've deliberately avoided talking about some of the junior tours, just because obviously we might well mention some of those as we do the podcast. So just going to touch on some of the bigger events which have taken place, and there have been some massive events over the last few weeks or so. English Girls Open Amateur Stroke Play Championship took place at the Caversham, was won by South Africa's Gia Raad. Wow, what a finish to this round. I think she was level coming up to the back nine on the final day, and then eagled the 11th and 14th holes, nice. And eventually finished, I think she finished 5 shots ahead of Lily Rose Hunt, who we know very well from Fellows here, so ironically enough, one of the events which we're going to be talking about a little bit later. So well done to Gia for winning that. England Under-16 Girls Championship then. Chloe Tubbard, she got her first ever national title, won by 5 shots. She was actually 5 shots behind going into the final day. It was a 72-hole event. Shot 73, though, in the third round, and then finished really well with a 69 in the final round to win ahead of Macy Whittle. And Roisin Scanlon was in third position. Have to say a mention as well for the overnight leader, Axel Martin from Switzerland. And this can happen to all of us, kind of, Ian. Had a bit of a mare, I'm afraid, in the third round, 86, which put her well out of contention. Unfortunately, she finished.
I'd be delighted with an 86.
Well, so would I, yes. But obviously, when you're at that standard, yeah. But well done to Chloe for winning that. Same with women's golf. Another teenager did really well. The English Women's Amateur Championship that took place at Ferndown was won by Ellen Yates. She's a teenager from West Hill Golf Club. Beat former England international Rebecca Earle in the final on the second extra hole. She was actually 2 down with 4 to play in the final, and then went on to win, managed to get it level, and then won on the second extra hole. And interesting, as far as that's concerned, quite a lot of these big amateur events, they have a stroke play qualifying, and then they have the match play after that. She qualified in 20th position from the stroke play qualifying. So there's no guarantee that if you go through as the top 1, 2, 3, or 4 seed, that the fact that you're going to go on and win the event. So well done to her. You know, the whole point is you're going to have to be in the tournament to win it, and she got through to the match play, and then went all the way through and won the whole event. Right, staying with match play then. So that was the women's amateur match play. Men's amateur championship then was won by Ben Brown from Romanby. He beat a friend of ours, Tyler Weaver, on the 20th hole, once again winning on the second extra hole. Don't show the photo yet because we are going to be talking a little bit more about Tyler in a second. Because
giving a clue away there,
bit
Steve.
of a clue,
Giving
yeah.
a clue
Because
away.
so Tyler finished second in that competition, did really well actually. And Tyler's actually playing this week in the home internationals, but ironically enough, actually Ben Brown isn't, because they actually selected the team for that before the actual championship. So in theory, you've got the best player in the country not actually playing for England. So there you go. Now, did mention Tyler there. He went into that event in top form because he won the English Boys Championship at Moore Park. We've got a photo to prove it. Well done to
I like Tyler, by the way.
Absolutely.
Really nice bloke.
And
Top bloke.
And one thing you would like is his scoring in that event, because he went 68, 69, 67, and then a 68 to finish. Started leader after the first round, leader after the second round, leader after the third round, and leader after the fourth round, and follows in some pretty prestigious names as well. Players have won that competition in the past: Sandy Lyle, Ken Brown, Justin Rose. So well done to him. And also doubled up as well, because he was part of the England team which won the Nations Cup as well, with Sam Easterbrook and Harry Mallon. They beat the Netherlands. Now, Weaver, we've heard of that name before, haven't we? Tyler Weaver.
Twice.
What about Max Weaver? Older brother. He won the Welsh Men's Amateur Championship. So how about that as a couple of weeks for the Weaver family? He won with, I haven't actually got the scores, but he won the final, 2-1 in the final. He beat Tommy Bowen at Newport Golf Club. So well done to Max, who's been on the podcast before, and I know the family do enjoy watching the podcast. So congratulations to both Tyler and Max, who
They are watching, by the way, the Weaver family. I remember coming down at Whittle Spa. We were filming the English under-18s, and the whole Weaver family were there, and they were really nice. Like, just general, as we're walking and talking and stuff with the cameras there, they were really, really nice. I got very good memories of time spent with the entire Weaver family.
Yes, and if you ever played cards against them, it's quite easy to beat them because they're not very good at cards.
Oh, we'll play cards. Won't play golf.
No, just play cards.
Play cards.
Anyway, right, staying with golf. Irish under-14s, under-16 championship, boys amateur championship, won by Adam Fahy. Won the under-16 championship, 74, 72, 72, won by 3 shots. But the under-14s champion, how about this? 71, 70, 72, Harry O'Hara from Claddenboy, won by 8 shots. So really well played there over in Ireland. North of the border, then Scotland, St Andrews Boys Open. That was won by Aaron Moen from Delamere Forest. He beat Buster O'Callaghan, 1 up in the final. He actually won the 18th hole to win the final, so well done to him. And another close final as well in the Girls' Championship. That was won by Elida Henderson. She beat Anna Mackay once again, 1 up in the final. North of England, under-14 championship, junior stroke play. Boys winner was Alex Bowes. Girls winner was Amy Burton. And overseas, big event overseas, the European Young Masters. Staffordshire's Ben Bolton, another person who we know very well.
Ben.
He won by 6 shots over in Slovakia. Fantastic scoring as well. Completely, over 2 rounds, not a single bogey on his scorecard. He won with an 11 under par score, finished with a 67. The Girls' Championship was won by Natalie Aparicio from Italy. Once again, she finished with 11 under par as well. And just finally, not necessarily the result, because neither of the players here were actually British who won it, but the US Junior Amateur Championship took place. The winner was Brian Kim from the USA, and the person who qualified, stroke play qualifier, was a guy called Tommy Morrison. And the reason why I was immediately struck by this guy is the fact that he is 6'10" tall. Wow. Yes. So watch out for him, because I don't think you're going to miss him if you ever do see him on a golf course.
Wow, that's unreal.
Yes.
He'll be able to hit the ball a long way.
Absolutely, yeah. Right. I also mentioned as well the Reed Trophy is taking place this week. So the English Boys Under-14 Amateur Championship, and there's some other big events taking place over the next few days or so. We'll cover them in the next news, the next podcast. So that wraps up the news end for this week. Unless you have anything to add to it as far as where you may be or may not be.
I was actually on the golf course on Friday. I was up at Blackwell Grange. A guest of the show, Aaron Cox, has his annual Pro-Am up there. And I should have thought about it. I didn't think about it until now, actually. One of the chaps we followed Aaron's group for a little bit. Now he was playing with, they're playing obviously four balls, and one of the group was 14 years old, and we followed him for 3 holes. And this kid knocked a beautiful lad called Charlie. Doesn't have a lot of experience either, but he knocked a beautiful one onto the green at the par 3 11th. And then at the 12th, again, stunning drive. Second shot, it was par 4, second shot, just outside the green, chipped in. Unbelievable. So if you do want to check that out, by the way, is at Live Sport Now, Instagram's channel, and my TikTok and stuff and bits and bobs. So go check that out, because I'll tell you something, it was absolutely on fire. Wish I'd thought about it, Steve, because I do have the videos. I could have played
I'm sure he is going to mention it and produce the video, but there you go.
Yeah. But I didn't. And I just say congratulations to Aaron again, by the way. As we know, he's won numerous awards for the work that he does in junior golf as well. So big mention to him. And again, his Blackwell Grange Pro-Am got to be arguably the biggest, I think, in the northeast of England, up in Darlington. A field, first group went out at 7:30. They were 4 balls straight through to 3:30 was the last group out. It was unreal. And of course, there are a number of juniors, as I say, who play in that. So that's where I was. But not a lot of golf actually coming up for me this month. A lot coming up in September, but don't worry about that for now. But just hit that little subscribe button if you're watching at Live Sport Now on YouTube, so you don't miss any of it. We've got 3 pro events. One is a grand final coming up. No, sorry, 2 pro events, 2 amateur events, but one is a massive amateur event, the grand final of the Trilby Tour up at Dundonald Links. That's next month. You can watch it all Live Sport Now.
Fantastic. Well done. You got your plug in. Right. So we are on to the Progress Junior Golf podcast today. We're going to be talking about junior golf tours. Both Ian and myself have got experience of being involved with running these and doing the media side of it at some of these events. We've also got Stephen Gallacher, who runs a junior golf tour up in Scotland, the former Ryder Cup player. And we've also got a player, because we've got someone who's played in these events, because we haven't. We have got no idea how you go about playing in some of these junior golf tour events. So I'm delighted to welcome onto the show England Golf Young Ambassador Olivia Whittle, who has got a lot more experience than us in this.
Hi, Olivia.
She's actually played in some of these events. How are we doing, Olivia?
I'm not too bad, are you?
We're okay. Good. Right. Okay. So we are going to be talking about junior golf tours, and let me tell you, there are loads out there. If you're wanting a little bit more information about it, we're going to point you in the direction of my website, which is Progress Junior Golf. Ian's going to put up a screenshot of exactly what the website is about, because basically it's a website which is independent from all junior events, because what we do is we put on there all the events which take place in the country, and it includes all the junior golf tours that I can find out there. I've got a pull down menu there which says event organizer. If you click on that, you'll see all the different junior competitions that take place at the various different tours. So as you can see, the Shires Junior Golf Tour, Faro Series, British Junior Golf Tour, they're all on there basically. And the point about the website, it's completely independent. There are some people out there, and I'll include some of the junior tours out there, who think, because I work for the Shires Junior Golf Tour and I try and get players to play in my event, that I'm somehow trying to tap up their players and all that. It couldn't be further from the truth, because I'm trying to get players to gain all sorts of events, and every single junior tour, if you have an event, it's on there. So please go on there. But the point about this podcast is we're going to be talking about the tours and finding out a little bit more about it, because so well got me putting those events on there, but really I'm getting questions from people who are going to the website and saying, well, what about this tour? What is it good for my child? Is it good for, is it good for me if it's a junior who gets in touch with me or whatever? So obviously I can give as much advice as I can in the sense of the ones that I've been to, same with yourself, Ian. And obviously we've got Olivia here as well, who can give a little bit of advice about playing these events, because she will have different experiences.
Can I just say on that as well, Steve? There is a link in wherever you're watching this broadcast right now. There is a link in the body, in the text of this, that takes you straight through to the Progress Junior Golf website. So you don't even have to type it out. So wherever you're watching this right now, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, etc., in the text accompanying this broadcast, where it says episode 41, Junior Golf Podcast talks junior golf tours, just scroll down a little bit. There's a direct link. It'll take you straight through to the website. There you go.
Okay. Right.
Just for you, that's Steve.
So let's go through some of them. We'll start off with actually probably the one which is, not necessarily the biggest one, but it's the one which incorporates all of them, and that's what's called the Champion of Champions event, which takes place over in Ireland. Michael Gallagher has been on the podcast on a couple of occasions, basically organised this event. I mentioned about my website being one whereby I gave the opportunity to say, here are all the events. Well, Michael does even more than that, because he invites all the people from those events. He has qualifiers at all these different tours, not just in this country, but around the world, and invites them to come over and play in these types of competitions, which is just fantastic. And I want to give a big up for Michael, because it gives those kids the opportunity to play in tours and also have the opportunity to then play in a world championship and stuff. I'll bring Olivia in here, because obviously you played in some of these events. Have you ever qualified for a world championship or anything like that? And if you haven't, what would you have thought if you had the opportunity to do that?
Yeah, so I qualified for like the European Open up in Spain, but obviously world champion, I think it'd be a great experience and a great opportunity to give it a good go. Yeah.
So I mean, well done to Michael for setting up. Just also give a mention as well, he runs what's called the Irish Junior Open Tour as well, which is events which are both north and south of the border over in Ireland as well. Another one over in Ireland as well is the Irish Kids Tour. They have events in Leinster, Ulster, Connacht and Munster, and then they have a grand final. So they tend to have one-off events there. So we'll just go through some of the ones which are in the different countries, and then we'll hear from Stephen Gallacher. In Wales, they've got what's called the Ping Welsh Junior Series, and they also what's called the Mini Series, which is more for the under-12s. Actually, so just a quick question for yourself, Olivia. When was the first time that you ever played in a junior tour event? How old were you?
Yeah, so my first ever junior tour was the Shires Tour, and I was probably around about 8 or 7, which was quite young, and obviously a big experience for that age. But I felt like it was good experience and like learning to go upwards. So
yeah, so obviously over in Wales you've got an under-12s competition for exactly that. If you're in Olivia's position at that age, whereby you're 8, I think they even go down to under-6s as far as that tour is concerned. And then they have a slightly older one with the Welsh Junior Tour, which is sponsored by Ping as well. We might come into a little bit of that, talk a little bit about how sponsors can get involved with some of these tours as well. I know that you've probably got some thoughts on that, Ian, because obviously you've worked with some tours who, professional tours who can get the big sponsors in, and can certainly help with that side of thing. Just so also, we'll talk about Scotland though before we hear from Stephen Gallacher. So the tours up in Scotland are the Junior Tour Scotland, which is run by Paul Gibson. He's been on the podcast before and explained about what he does. There's another one called Junior Golf Tour. There's the Barry Douglas series as well. And there's also Paul Laurie as well, who, of course, the former Open champion, a couple of times Ryder Cup player as well. So there's some big events up in Scotland. And there's another one as well, which is the Stephen Gallacher Foundation. Now, I'm very pleased to say that I had a chat with Stephen at the Belfry a few weeks ago, and he explained a little bit more about what his tour is involved. This is what he had to say.
You set up a junior academy, a junior tour. Just explain a little bit more about exactly what that's.
Yeah, I started the Junior Foundation 2012, and I've got a couple of great guys, friends of mine, ex-county players, ex-internationalists, Scott Knowles and Stuart Johnson, that run it for me, and my wife's involved with the finances, and so it's quite a tightly knit, almost family-run business, a charity. Sorry, and basically what we do is we try and get kids playing golf. That's it. I didn't want that kid to have an excuse not to play golf, so we go into schools and take them out of primary 6, primary 7, take them to the driving range, give them PGA training, and then we put tournaments on for them after that. And then if they like that, then they can join golf courses and keep the sort of cycle of golf going. And we also do wagon events for older kids and training camps all over the country. So it's going really well, and the more money we get, the bigger we can get, basically. That's it.
And aimed at very young kids initially as well.
Yeah, start up, more sort of under 10s. We'll put Easter camps, summer camps through primary schools. I think primary schools where you can, a sport can encapsulate you. I think if you don't try golf at a young age, you're probably never going to try it unless it's in the family. So I think we try and introduce it at an early age when they're getting football, tennis, cricket, rugby, badminton, and then just keep it going. Hopefully they like it, and we sort of bust the myth that it's not elitist golf. There's places you can go and play. You can come and play in my events. If you have no clubs, we've got clubs. If you have no shoes, we've got shoes. So you sort of I don't want them to have an excuse not to try it and like it.
Also, do you think in recent years, perhaps with the exception of Bob McIntyre, there's no Scottish players who've been coming through in recent years? Is that something which you noticed and thought, that's something I need to help and try and help out a bit?
No, I think there's been plenty of golfers come through. I think there's been nearly all of them won as well. David Law, you've had Ewan Ferguson come through, there's so many guys coming through just now. Connor Stein. I mean, there's probably 10, 12 guys, Scots on the tour just now that have been winning. But obviously Bob took it to sort of another level with how competitive he's been in sort of the majors. He's been the biggest thing to come through, and there's a lot in the challenge. There's a lot of girls playing really well on the LET winning. There's so many good girls in the fold to come through. Hannah Darlin and other girls in universities and colleges in America. I think Scottish golf's doing alright just now, actually. I think it goes in cycles. We're a tiny country compared to the finance that France, Italy, all these infrastructures have. So I think we need to get a little bit more government backing for Scottish golf, so we can accelerate that as well and get even more people coming through.
But perhaps that's my point with that, was the fact that as far as the Ryder Cup is concerned, with the exception of yourself and Colin Montgomery, there's not been too many Scots who played in that tournament in recent years, certainly.
Yeah, it's tough to get in though. It's a tough thing to do. I think in the past we've had Gordon Brand Jr., Paul Laurie, Andrew Coulthard, Sandy Lyle, Sam Torrance. We've been blessed with these guys who were winning Order of Merits and stuff like that. So they were proper superstars, playing in America. And I think the next crop coming through could be the next Sam Torrance the next month to keep that going.
You mentioned Paul Laurie there. He's also doing some work with junior golf as well. How important is it to have not just yourself pushing it from a top level, but also someone who's very similar standard, very similar level, to push the game with the youngsters?
Paul was instrumental in me starting my foundation. Was just having dinners with Paul on tour and seeing how much he put into it and how much he got out of it and how much the kids benefited from it basically. And it was just he helped me start up, and yeah, it's brilliant. He's up the top of the country, I'm in the middle of the country, so we're sort of doing well. He's doing really well with that sort of transitional from the really good amateur to professional just now. He's putting on a lot of events for called the Tartan Pro Tour. He's doing great with that, and he's also got a few in there, a feeder tour to the Challenge Tour, which is massive. But yeah, Paul he started his way back, I think, after he won the Open, and he's kept it going, and I just hope to just emulate him through the years.
And Barry Douglas as well, I think he's involved as well. I think the three of you kind of working together.
Yeah, Barry Douglas, but it's just been, I think it's on just now, actually, with Barry Douglas. So there's three sort of foundations, and we have a big tournament. We go to Islay to the Macri, race to Macri, which fantastic golf course, great hotel. They look after us so well over there. Just brilliant for the kids. It's something for them to aim at, try and qualify for, to get into the final stages, to the best playing against the best, which is what I'm all for at competitive level. You've got to have the best playing against the best more often. It's the only way you improve.
I'm just thinking on that is how important is the fact that you're working together, because it could be a case of, you mentioned the word competitive there, three different organisations. It could be geared as like, well, we just want them to play mine, not yours, if you see what I mean. But you're working together, which is important, isn't it?
Well, it's not about us. It's about the kids playing golf. It's nothing to do with why we're too small a country to be clashing. Everybody has to come together. It's for golf. It's for golf. That's nothing else. It's more for the sport and keeping the participation levels up and giving the kids somewhere to play. That's all it's about. It's nothing to do with. There's no egos or nothing like that.
Also, the format is what you do. I know you use flag competitions, which you think are very important. There are lots of different ways. There's no right or wrong way of doing it, but that's the way that you do your events. Just explain the reasons and why flag competitions.
I think flag competitions for the young kids gives them a level of competition, but you're having a lot of fun with it. And so basically, you get 36 shots. You get a flag in your hand. You can't have any more than 2 shots at a bunker or a 3-putt, and or a double bogey. I think it's a double bogey, I'm sure it is. So basically you get to the 5th, some sort of the 5th. So when a kid gets to the 6th, it's like a massive step forward, and they get a personal best, they get a band for improvement. And basically when they progress to the 9th and they've still got the flag in their hand, that's when they're ready to play stroke play. So then they go to 9-hole stroke play. So the kids, when they actually hold the putt in the 9th and they've got the flag in their hands, it's a euphoric moment for them. It's a great stepping stone for them, because they're having such fun and they enjoy it. You know, they're not taking 12 to get a bunker, they take a couple and then they just throw it on the green. So there's an element of getting them encapsulated in it, and then teach them to, now you're keeping a score now, so it's a little bit different. And then they go on to 18-hole stroke play, and then hopefully playing all opens and medals at the golf club.
Now I'm not on video here, but I've got a smile on my face just thinking about that child on that 9th hole holding that putt. I mean, that must, when you see that yourself, that must be, you know, so rewarding to see that. And see
yeah,
that
I've also seen a kid miss one from a foot, and I've never seen anyone more distraught, never spoken the way home, and so you're learning that way also. You're learning about how much they want it, and then the next week they went out and smashed it. You know, so you've sometimes got to have a little bit of adversity before you can progress. Yeah, it's a great to see such young kids playing. You know, they're only between 100 and 150 yards every hole, so you're taking the tee in front of the fairway, and you know you can put in a little bit of water, so they have to hit over a little bit of water, maybe a 20-yard carry and stuff. So you're just condensing it, what golf really is. And then when they start to play 9-hole stroke play, it's a different game. They have to relearn that, and then they go on 18-hole stroke play.
Fascinating, isn't it, to hear from Stephen Gallacher there talking about his foundation and the formats he uses and the way that the kids respond to it as well. And I think he's doing a great job, and also Scott Knowles as well. From your point of view, Olivia, then, when you first played in that event, what kind of formats, you mentioned the Shires as far as the tour is concerned, were you on forward tees, were you playing 9 holes, what was the format that you were playing back then?
Yeah, so it was, I think I can remember, I think it was like a Stableford, and then I think it was like 9 holes or 18. I think you could choose depending on like either your handicap or what age you were, and it was just gathering experience really, and just seeing what it was like to play like competitively against other people really.
And Stableford's possibly important as well at that age as well, because it means that you avoid that blow up hole which completely ruins a round if you're playing in a medal, and at that age it is important, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
And also from your point of view, Ian, when you've been watching these events and things like that, is how important do you think it is, you know, for them to get it right at that very young age?
Yeah, it's I like what Stephen's doing, and I like that game that they play actually as well, because it really does. I wish I'd had that when I was younger. Do you know what I mean? Because it was just go up, pitch and putt back then, you know, with the old man, and then he took me out one time up at Farnham to play 18, and I wasn't ready for it. Do you know what I mean? It was so daunting, you know, going to an 18 hole. I wasn't anywhere near it. I think it's critical at this age to simplify the game, as I say, and then grow from there, and to have different methods of play. I think stroke play at junior level is a little bit tough, to be honest. I quite like the match play element, but I think Stableford is a good one. I really do think Stableford works quite well, because it probably makes you play a little bit more aggressive, because you know, okay, if it doesn't quite go my way, you know, I can walk off and it's not going to destroy my round, because you could play brilliant for 17 holes and then have an absolute mare and find the water 3 times at one of them, and that's it. You know, your scorecard says you shot 110, but you know you took 20 shots on one hole. Do you know what I mean? So I think you've got to get the structure right, and it's important for that so people actually continue to play as well. You know what I mean? Did
you ever play flag competitions, Olivia? Was that something you played at a young age?
No, I've never actually heard of like the flag competition, other than like recently this year actually, because at the golf club where I'm based, they actually introduced that this year for like the members, which is quite a cool competition, and obviously they're really eager to keep going and try and get on to like the next hole, and I think it's really good, especially for a younger age as well.
Now, one of the things which has cropped up, we will talk about the particular tours and the way that they format their competitions, perhaps in a little bit more detail, but age tees? Because there are certain competitions, let's say, for example, the British Junior Golf Tour. They do ones whereby at a certain age group, you play off a certain tee. When you go up to the next age group, the tees are moved slightly forward and things like that. So therefore, you're always playing the golf course and trying to par it off your particular tee. Is that something you encountered as a youngster?
Not necessarily with like the different colour tees. Like I think it was more like handicap based or like age based, depending on what tees you played off and like what capability you were at that age. So then it makes it easier for you if you're off the forward tees and you got better chances. Where I think teeing off the back tees is a bit more of a challenge for you, and it might make you thrive a bit more.
Is that something, obviously it's something you didn't encounter, but do you think at that very young age, when you were 8 and 9, do you think you would have enjoyed that, having the opportunity to, to play a 110-yard par 4 or whatever it might be, just something a little bit shorter, just to give you the opportunity to have, your first birdie, that type of, scenario, that kind of feeling?
Yeah, I think that would been quite cool, like having a par 4, like 150 yards. I think it would definitely made it like a bit more funner and go for those chances at like getting a birdie and stuff like that.
And obviously we're talking about tours here, and obviously Ian's covered tours, and the point about tours is you play different golf courses. So you started out with the Shires, which I know is the Shires, so that's Leicestershire, Northamptonshire and Bedfordshire. So and you were obviously coming for, am I right thinking you were even outside those 3 counties, is that correct?
Yeah, definitely. So like I'm from Staffordshire, and I remember playing the Bedfordshire Golf Club. I remember that one, I think.
Which has got a par 3 course, so you probably would have played on the par 3 course there. So even that element of going somewhere which wasn't your home club, how did that feel at a young age?
I feel like it was quite fun, like different experiences and different for like the entry fee that you play some good courses for like how young you are as well. So I think it's definitely a good experience to like travel as well.
And from a tour professional point of view, is what do you think a youngster can learn going forward to, if they do want to become a tour professionally, and what do you think they can learn from that experience at that young age?
Absolutely huge. I think it's I've done 3 junior tour events. Obviously Faldo we've done together. We'll touch on some of the other ones as well. It's the professional sort of setup. I think juniors raise the game a little bit because they're playing, and it sounds silly, but when you've got the advertising hoardings at the first tee and you do have a starter saying your name, it just has it. And of course you've got the cameras there as well. It's you watch it on TV, you watch it on Sky Sports or whatever, and you see it, how the pros do it, and it gives you a taster of that. Yes, it's not, the Open, but I think they raise the game a little bit. There's a extra degree of professionalism, I think, and it really benefits everybody playing the game, and it can be detrimental to the players who perhaps think they're ready but are not, because they can put in a few heavyweight scores. But then again, it's up to the parents to make sure that they're okay and ready for it. And of course, there are handicap limits, etc. But I think there's one thing to turn up at your local club and play a local tournament, but then there's a step or 2 up to play an event where, because the events I've done, except Faldo Series, there's a pro tournament going on as well. Do you know what I mean? The pros go out first, and then the juniors go out after, and they feel like a pro. And you can't really replicate that unless it's happening there and then. I don't really think you can do that if you just go down your local club just to play 18 holes with your mates. It's just not the same, is it?
So just a question for you though, Ian raised the point there of people calling out your name on the first tee. Can you remember that first time that happened to you?
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a lot nervous than just turning up to your tee time and hitting it at the first tee. But when you've got like the cameras and the people calling out your name and where like you're from, it's definitely a lot more nerve-wracking than just rocking up at the tee.
Olivia, did you find then that when you had that, when you were playing a shot, did you just think about it a little bit more? You just take a little bit of extra time to think about the next shot, and did it feel a little bit more important, even though it might not be more important than a club competition or whatever? Did it just have that element of extra professionalism and just a little bit more like, I really want to win this one? Like, I know you want to win every one, but just I really want to win this one just a little bit more than I want to win the others. You know?
Yeah, definitely. Like when they call your name off the tee, you're like, I've got to hit a good shot. So you just make you think through the processes a lot more than just, oh, I'm just going to hit this one down the fairways. Whereas like you need to make sure you hit it, because it's a bit embarrassing if you just top it off the tee and everyone's watching.
And obviously Ian does interviews with players as well, and I take photos as well. What about that first time where suddenly you've got either whether it's a camera, a photographer camera, or whether it's a video camera, when that is put in your face for the first time? How did that feel?
Yeah, so obviously, like I've seen you like at some different events, like on some other tours, but like it's definitely nervous. Like when you see the camera, you're like, oh my gosh, like they're looking at me now. Like you need to hit good shots to like do well. Like it's definitely nervous.
Is it a benefit, Olivia? And be honest, do you think it's for the long term? Does it help having the cameras there and to have that experience of what life might be like on tour? Because you know we're doing it at a lower level, of course, compared to sort of the PGA and the DP World and Live Golf, but it's an introduction into that world. Do you think it's too soon, or do you think it's a good thing? Because I know certainly when we've done Faldo and stuff, one of the things that I quite like is that we're quite friendly. You know, we're not there to catch anybody out. But I appreciate if you don't know us, you don't know that. So it's just a case of, oh, great, we're being filmed. Oh, no, I hope I don't duff it. Do you think, and in all honesty, is it a benefit, or would you rather just not have us there and just get on with the game?
No, I personally quite like having the cameras there, because obviously it puts a bit more pressure on you. So you go through the processes a bit more. And then obviously photos, if you like want them published, they go out and people get to like know you a bit more. And they find your name and they start Googling, which it kind of makes you feel good, like, oh, I'm being watched. I quite like it.
It's good for your profile, isn't it? And I think that's the point. You know, it's like all sports. I'm involved in a number of sports, and I kind of think sometimes it's a bit like motorsport. Golf and motorsport are expensive to play, and if you can get a bit of a leg up, and if you have a good profile, you're more likely to get picked up by, say, a sponsor or a partner, somebody who's maybe willing to help you along a little bit. And that can only help, surely.
Yeah, definitely.
And also building up a profile as well, if going to a different venue. You know, it's all well and good you being the biggest thing at your home club. Everyone knows you're your home club. But if you're going to a golf course whereby you've never seen before and you do well then, you know, that suddenly it brings you to the attention of not just, you know, the people within your own club, but also not just, you know, within your own county, but also other counties as well. Is that something where you felt when you were going to play in these junior tour events that you were thinking, actually, this is something which is going to get my name out there?
Yeah, so like just playing it, like I know some people that just play at home courses and you mention their names and they're like, oh, I don't know who that is. Whereas like when you go out further, like say if I went to play like Nottinghamshire or Buckinghamshire, like the people are like looking at your name more and like, oh, I've not seen those before. It's just like more people that you get to speak to and know, then the better it is for your profile and stuff like that.
So it's a simple question to ask you then, because obviously you were 8 years old when you played in that Shires event, which was outside the county. Why did you do that? Who made that decision? Was it you who went to your mum and dad, or did they say, actually, this event outside the county? Was it a bit of both?
I think it was a bit of both. Like I think definitely like when I was younger, I played a lot of like club competitions, but I think I just wanted to something a bit different, and try different courses, and that's when I got into like the Shires Tour, the Order of Merit like locally, and then that's when I got into like different tours and then played in national events. And
when you came back to your club and you met those people who, like you say, played in their own club, what kind of message were you giving to them? Were you saying, actually, this is good for you, or were you at points where you're saying, actually, probably it isn't right for you at the moment?
Yeah, so like when you come back and it's like, oh, it's been like a great experience, like you should try it. It's just like the fact that you're learning different things, like every course is different, it's not going to be the same. So like you're learning more and you're gaining more experience for your sport basically.
And you say about playing different courses, different types of courses as well, because obviously, look, I appreciate obviously Staffordshire and the ones we mentioned, the Shires are all Midlands. But what about when you play on your first links event? Was that on a junior tour? Was that somewhere? I don't know. Was that an experience whereby you had to almost play a completely different game that you'd ever played before?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I played some links courses this year, and like in the past years, like it's definitely a lot different. You've got to think about like your game strategy a lot more compared to like the Parkland and Heathland courses, because just got to keep it under the wind and things like that.
And what about playing partners? You obviously, you're playing on different courses. You're going to be playing with different people who you may never met before, from different counties. How did that feel?
Sometimes you can quite nervous, like, oh, who am I playing with today? I'm not quite sure who they are. But then I think if you just make the conversation, it doesn't feel as bad as it actually is. I think making more friends out there is a lot easier than keeping yourself in the shell.
What about the fact that the vast majority of these events that you're playing, the vast majority of all the junior tours are mixed competitions? So what was your thinking where if you were put in a group with, let's say, boys and girls, what was your thinking at a very young age when that happened?
You want to beat the boys, don't you, Olivia? You wanted to smash them. That's what you wanted to do.
Yeah, like, sometimes you're there like, oh, God, they're like hit it so far, like further than me, but they're on the back tees sometimes for a reason. And it's just, even like if you're playing with the girls, at least you've got someone to talk to. But I think it's like quite nice playing mixed golf because you get to see like their experiences as well as ours.
It's fascinating because I'm organising or helping organise a competition tomorrow, and they've changed the tee start sheet because my initial start sheet had players who weren't necessarily the same handicap playing alongside each other, and they've turned around to me and said, no, we want it in handicap order. When you were a junior golfer, what did you prefer? Did you prefer to play with players the same age as you, the same standard as you, or did you not really mind?
I didn't really mind, to be honest. Like, I just like the experience of the golf, and who I got put with was just luck of the draw, really. But I think handicap, I probably prefer it like age-wise, because if you have a bad hole, it's going to happen to everyone, isn't it? So I think.
Did you ever do any research, Olivia? Like, if you found out you're going to a different course, did you like look it up online a couple of days before? Did you just make it up as a go? Because that's what I would do. I would just turn up.
I do like now, like research it before and see what I've got to expect. But when I was younger, I think I just turned up and just went for the golf, really.
As you should do as well. It's fun, isn't it? It's fun turning up to a new course, but you don't want too much pressure.
Yeah.
At 8 years old, do you? You just want to turn up and hit a ball.
8 years old, I just turned up and went for everything. But you got water there, you're like, oh, do a layup, do a not. But I think when I was younger, I just went for everything.
Yes.
Now, Ian's used that word there, pressure, and obviously that can come with competitions, and it's something which quite often crops up on this podcast, where we try and say, well, let's try and make it fun, let's try and not put too much pressure on juniors. Did you feel that when you were playing in these tours? Did you feel as if they were a little bit too serious on occasions, a bit too competitive, or did you feel that they got the balance right?
I think some were like definitely a lot competitive than others, but I think that's just because of like the competition that was maybe in the competition, like the participants in it. But I think they were definitely like well organised and just turn up, take your time, practice, and then like you can get yourself ready for teeing off in the big tournament.
Was it sort of prizes? Fun? What about that?
Oh yeah,
did that matter what prizes you got?
Like I know like some you get like vouchers and stuff, but I know definitely the Robert Rock Tour, they have some great prizes. Like you can win like a putter and a wedge in like first place. So it's definitely like, oh, I want to do well to try and get up the top and win some new clubs.
So
I think there should be more stuff. I think you get like a hole in one, you should get like a year's pass at Thorpe Park or something. Do you know what I mean? Like
definitely.
Get some. Do you know what I mean? Like, how cool would that be? Do you know what I mean? I'd want to win that.
So let me just explain a little bit more about some of the competitions. We'll go into a few more details because some of these I know that you've played in, Olivia, and some of them we have just mentioned here. So some of the ones which take place in Britain. And so there's the Fowler series, which has been mentioned on a few occasions. We'll go into a bit more details about that perhaps So there's British Junior Golf Tour, which is run by Steve Adams and Neil Randall. They've been doing it for many years now. That's basically, it's more of a national competition, although generally speaking, most of their events are down south. You've got the Junior European Open, which is, once again, it's a national competition. I think you have played in that, haven't you, Olivia, at some stage? That one now is Nick Doherty is now involved with that.
Yeah, definitely. I played, I think it was Stourbridge or Stone, somewhere like that.
Stonebridge.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
And I qualified there like the first time I entered and got through to the one in Spain. And that was just a great experience. So
for people who are not aware, then, that they have one-off competitions. So it's not like an order of merit as such. They have one-off competitions, and I'm right in thinking, I think it's the top 2 net and the top best gross. I think that's it, or something about 2 or 3 or 4 players who qualify from each event. Is that your memory of it as well?
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's like a wild card at the end of the year as well.
And then, then, because it was a one-off event, qualified, then you qualified to go over and play overseas. Was that the first time you'd ever played in a tour event and won the opportunity to play overseas?
Yeah, that was my first overseas event over there. It was really good experience actually. I think it was a 3-day event, and then you got a team one at the end, which I thought was quite good.
Okay, so that's the European Junior Open. Some of the other ones as well, which take place, mentioned the We Won This. That tends to be more for young golfers, and also they tend to do age-related tees. Same with the British Junior Golf Tour. They use age-related tees as well. There's schools golf as well, which once again is a national one. There's US Kids. Now they have regional qualifiers in the East Midlands, North London, South London, South West, South Wales, Northern Ireland, 5 in Edinburgh. So they have a lot of events around the country. The UK Kids, they've gone down a very similar route to the Junior European Open, in the sense that they've just got one-off events: East Midlands, North East, West Midlands, South East, and North West. Although they're quite a fledgling tour there, and they've got a grand final. I think actually the grand final takes place in 2 or 3 weeks' time. And then you mentioned the Robert Rock there, which, now the interesting one with the Robert Rock is that I don't know how long ago you started playing on that, but that initially started out as more of a regional tour, and they've kind of gone more national with that and trying to spread and do events more over the country. Did you start off playing with that with regional, and have you carried on playing in the national events with them?
Yeah, so I started playing just the local ones at South Staffs, Ruddington Grange and Nottingham. I just started playing in those ones, but I haven't recently played in one actually. But I know they're definitely promoting doing one in Spain and going overseas as well, which I think is quite cool.
Yeah, I think they've got one I think they have one in La Manga in February, and they also did an Abu Dhabi Championship as well. And this is something which you'll probably be able to relate to as well as a parent, Ian, or as certainly an adult anyway, is the costs involved with this. Now, obviously, with the greatest respect to Livy, I suspect you probably don't have to pay for you to play in these events, so you're probably not as aware of it as adults. But the cost can mount for these if suddenly you're driving, 150 miles to play in a competition, if you're doing a nationwide competition. Is that something which tours have to be wary of, in the sense of trying to attract local golfers, but at the same time be aware of the fact that if people are coming from all over the country, it's going to, particularly with the petrol prices being like they are?
If that's to me, Steve, the simple fact is it comes down to money, and the two that I've been involved with outside of Faldo series is Clutch and now Mizuno Next Gen, and the 2020 Pro Tour, so ITS Tour. And I know certainly for Chris and Adam, because I'm a lot closer to those guys than I do with the Clutch stuff, they've done a few junior events, and we did one last year up at Northcliffe. And a lot of the time, it requires a golf club to be very accommodating as well, because what they do, they have the pro event and then they bolt on a junior tour at the end of it. That's how it works. To do a junior standalone tour for the ITS Tour, or even I think Clutch have tried to do a few events, didn't work out financially. So for the tour, it's got to make financial sense as well, which unfortunately that means that someone's got to pay for it, and the people who've got to pay for it are the parents. And it's hard because there's a responsibility from everybody. There's a responsibility then for these tours, if they're going to put these events on, to make it affordable. But if the clubs aren't playing ball, then there's only so much you can do, and they'll cut them and just focus on the pro events, which is sort of what happens with a lot of the pro events. And I think sometimes that's why having a high-profile name such as Stephen Gallacher or Robert Rock, for example, will help, because the courses will want names like that there at their clubs. If you've got a tour, or a junior tour, the Robert Rock tour, you say to all your members, "Oh, Robert Rock's going to come down." Do you know what I mean? And quite often they'll do deals and sort of. I can't speak for Robert Rock, but I know sort of with 2020 Pro Tour boys, Chris Hansen, of course, played 100 times on the DP World Tour. He'll do a lesson, or he'll do a talk to some of the members and bits and bobs like that to get tee times and things. So it's a bit of a hustle, to be brutally honest with you, and it's an expensive hustle if it's just a case of, we want these tee times, we've got to book them out at the course, and the course will say, well, this is how much it's going to cost, and they don't really care whether it's juniors or not, to be honest. Not all. Northcliffe, where they do the junior event with ITS, a fantastic, outrageously underrated track, by the way. Northcliffe, just outside Bradford. I'm not on commission, but are really, really good. They get it. They're a club that get it. As we know, Blackwell Grange, Aaron Cox, and Richmond Golf Club is up there as well. Places that get it. So there's a number that get it, and there's a lot that just want to make money. And it's finding the ones that get it that will make it more effective and cost effective for everyone.
I kind of half joked, Olivia, the fact that you wouldn't be aware of the cost of how much it was going to cost there. But is that, in all seriousness, is that a conversation you would have with your parents about, actually, should I really be playing in that event? Is that a little bit too far for me to go for the cost that it's going to, and the cost of playing some of these events? The pricing is fantastic. Some of them not quite so good.
Yeah, definitely. Like there's one in a couple of weeks at the Manchester Golf Club. I think that's like £100 to enter, but then obviously you've got to think of, if it's a 2-day event, you've got to think of accommodation and things like that. Can be very expensive, and obviously meals on a night. It all adds up. Like, it's definitely a conversation that we've had, and like what competitions are best for me to enter and what will be more beneficial.
Before you know where you are, it could be £1,000, couldn't it? Do you know what I mean? If you've got to go to Scotland, okay, it's a good event, but it might be free to enter, for example, but then if you've got to pay for a hotel for 3 nights, you've got to pay for food, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. Suddenly, free, not quite.
And it goes without saying, these are juniors, so therefore they have to have the parent with them. So therefore, it's not as if you could, me and you could just do it, Ian. The junior has to take, and probably more than one parent as well. So, I mean, okay. So you mentioned there, that's just a 2-day event. So just to give you a bit of a background for people who aren't aware, the Faraday Series, for example, although they've changed their format slightly. They now have an elite tour, which is under 25s, a junior tour, which tends to be for girls, it's under 21s, for boys, it's under 18s, and then a futures, which is just a 1-day event. But that junior tour event, which is, I know you've played in, Olivia, because we both were there. I took photos, and I think Ian interviewed in Wales. That's a 3-day event. So obviously that's your practice day, first, second day with a cut to find out whether you can even make that final day. That's obviously that. A, that's expensive, and B, how does that feel on going into that final day, or not going into that final day, whereby you have to make a cut? That we talk about that pressure word again.
Yeah, well, definitely. Like, sometimes if you're playing in that 3 or 4-day event and you've got to make the cut, you're like, oh, do I pay for the extra hotel day, or is it like, but then sometimes when you're playing, you want to make the cut, so then you have to go and find somewhere to stay, which is quite cool.
Okay. Also, I also mentioned as well, we have to give a bit of a mention out for some of the junior tours as well. Northern Junior Golf Tour, another regional one. They tend to be Cheshire, Lancashire, Cumbria, and Northumberland, the northeast as well. So now another one which I haven't mentioned here. These are junior tours as such, but there are counties as well which organise tours as well. Is that something where I think you did do something within your county, whereby a county, not necessarily a tour as such, whereby they go to different counties, but even within your own county, they try and organise events within their own county. That's something you did do, isn't it, Olivia?
Yeah, so like when I was like 12, I think, or around that age, they used to do like they still might actually, like different tour, like competitions, like opens, I suppose, at like the local Staffordshire golf courses, and then over a certain amount of that, if you've played, I think it might have been like top 10 golf courses or something, your best top 10 scores will count to an order of merit.
Now I've got to come to. We've lasted an hour here, but I'm going to have my rant now. because one of my massive frustrations, and actually Stephen Gallacher raised the issue, or at least I put the question to him and he pointed it out, and that's the fact that there is a little bit of antagonisation. There's a bit, I don't know, I could use the word jealousy if you like, between counties, clubs and junior tours, in the sense that they see them as rivals. And counties in particular towards junior tours think, they want to take their players away from the county, to play in these junior tours, and it works the other way around, whereby junior tours think, I don't want to get involved with counties because they, we're running our own organisation. And I've been in a situation whereby counties have turned around to me and said, we don't want to back your junior tour. Now I've got a list in front of me of lots of different counties who run those type of tours, run junior tours, but not one of them is involved with a junior tour, an independent junior tour. And I've had this conversation with counties whereby I've said, why don't you bring us in? We'll run it for you and you can be part of your county. And they've turned around and said, I could name the county if I really wanted to. And they've turned around to me and said, Northamptonshire. They've turned around to me, my home county have turned around to me and said, we don't want to be seen to be backing one tour over another. And I couldn't quite see the logic. So therefore they would prefer to be seen to be doing nothing than to be seen to be doing something. I just couldn't understand the logic of that. From your point of view, Olivia, I can obviously look at it from a tour point of view in the sense of I can't see the logic. But from a player's point of view, have you had pressure come from whether it's counties, whether it's come clubs, to say, don't play in that, play in our events?
Yeah, definitely. So I experienced it was last year sometime around this time, August. It was you can come to our county weekend, but it was the same weekend as England regional selection squad, and they were like, oh well, we've had this booked for over a year, so ideally we want you to come to our weekend. I was like, well, if I get into England, then I'm gonna go to England. I know which one comes first. And they were like, oh well, pretty much that's not what we want you to do. But I just did what was beneficial for me, and if they didn't like it, then it's their problem.
Well, the thing about this,
PGA Tour live again.
And I'm sure Ian can relate to this because he's probably faced it as well. But within counties, counties have the clubs like. So rather, it's international first, then it's national, then it's regional, then it's county, then it's club, and that's the order. That's the way that they see it.
Yeah.
Now you imagine throwing in a junior tour into that, suddenly it upsets their equilibrium. They don't like the fact that this outside organisation is and I've seen it. I've seen it with the Robert Rock. I've seen it with the Shires. I've seen it with the Northern Junior Golf Tour. I've seen it with the British Junior Golf Tour. Lots of these I've worked with whereby they've said, I want to play in this event, and the county have turned around and gone, well, no, you should be playing in our event. And it happens vice versa as well. So I'm not blaming the counties for that. It happens the other way around whereby, as long as that junior is playing golf, that's my thing. I couldn't care less where they play. Great, they play in my event, but as long as they're playing golf, is that how you saw it when you were a junior, in the sense of as long as I'm playing somewhere, then I would hope that people would back me for making that decision?
Yeah, definitely. I think I always wanted to play in one of the best that I could probably enter. And if I got the opportunity to play a club match over an England comp, I know which one I would want to do. I want to play the England comp over a little match at the golf club. Yeah.
Okay, just for one final thought, I did say I was going to mention it a little bit earlier as well. And we were obviously talking about working together and things like that. Now, one of the reasons why counties, I think, can be a little bit averse to using some of these tools is the fact that they bring with them sponsors. So we mentioned the Robert Rock there. Obviously, they have, obviously Robert Rock. I think Dream Beds, I think it's one of the ones which is involved with that.
Yeah.
Some of the other ones as well. You work with the 2020 Pro Tour. They've got a sponsor there as well. But that can help you, can't it?
Mizuno as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But that can help bring in the income, and therefore you can cut the cost for the kids. Surely it's helping everyone to basically say to these independent organisations, go and get the sponsors.
The thing is, though, Steve, a lot of these sponsorship deals, they aren't financial deals. A lot of them. A lot of them are equipment deals, or we'll give you this, we'll give you that for free. I would say a large majority, they're not here's some money. We'll back you, but we'll back you by giving you some equipment or giving you some days in our studio or this or that. I would say probably 80% of sponsorship deals that you see at a slightly lower end of the scale, not obviously DP World Tour. This isn't the realms of being Rory McIlroy and Nike coming in and saying, here's $10 million to wear our shoes. We're talking about junior golf, and a lot of the deals that are done there, for example, 2020 Pro Tour, there's an equipment brand involved with them now. I won't say who it is. Indie Golf, they do a load of wedges, and they're very good wedges. But it's not, they haven't given him cash. They've given him a bag of wedges, and basically anything that they can sell on from that, they earn a commission from. So it's tough because, it frustrates me because Titleist, Adidas, FootJoy, TaylorMade, all these people, they've got, Cushnet, they've got so much money that they could, and it would be nothing to them. If they chucked 10 grand at 2020 Pro Tour and said, put this 10 grand towards junior golf, it would transform junior golf. What they would be able to do with that money and the opportunities that they'd be able to give to junior golfers up in the north of England would be brilliant. Do you know what I mean? And to them, that's probably what they spend on lunches. Do you know what I mean? On a Tuesday afternoon for the staff. So there's money there. There's a lot of money there. It's just unlocking it in the right way. And I know with Mizuno, I think Mizuno now, when they first started with Clutch, because Mizuno have always been involved in Clutch, they'd bring the tour truck down, and I don't think it was a financial deal at the time. That might have been changed. I'm not privy to it because I know it's now the Mizuno Next Gen Series, so I'm assuming something's happened there. But all I will say is that I would say 70, 80, maybe even 90% of the deals that you see at the lower end, at the struggle, the tour into the feeder tours, and then the offshots of that, the sponsorship deals aren't financial. They're more, this is what we're doing in return for this.
And you mentioned earlier, Olivia, about the prizes that with the Robert Rock, the fact that there's some cool prizes out there. One of the things which I'm very keen on when I'm looking for prizes is unique prizes. So I know that, for example, with the Robert Rock, he goes along so for those people who aren't aware, he goes along to a lot of those junior events. So the fact that you can meet someone who plays on the European Tour at one of these events, wow! I mean, that's prizes you can't buy money. And one of the things that I try and do is I try and organise rounds of golf with some of these top pros. So I've organised rounds of golf with Charlie Hull. I've organised rounds of golf with Megan McLaren, with Ryan Evans in my county, players who played at the highest level. And as far as those pros are concerned, it's a round of golf. You do it during the off season, so it's their opportunity to have a round of golf, chilled out round of golf with 2-3 kids. But for those children, those kids, wow, what an opportunity! Is that something you have experienced, whereby you've had that opportunity to win something which is, money can't buy kind of prize?
I haven't experienced winning a round of golf with Charlie Hull, but I think if that was me when I was younger, I think that'd be an amazing opportunity to win and go and play a round of golf with Charlie Hull. To them, it's just a round of golf, but to the younger ones, it's oh my god, I'm playing with Charlie Hull or Robert Rock. It's amazing.
I mean,
but if you come last, Olivia, you have to play a round of me and Steve.
Yeah, that's it. That's the booby prize. Yes.
So nobody wants to come last.
Yeah. The actual, by the way, the round of golf which I organised with Megan McLaren many years ago was the Shires Junior Golf Tour event, and that was 2 weeks after she just held the winning putt in the Curtis Cup. So this is kind of prizes whereby that's a once in a lifetime opportunity. That was her first event after winning the Curtis Cup, was to play in a junior tour event. And the kids just loved it, kind of thing. And
they are great ideas, Steve, and I think things like that are great prizes for the junior players. I think a lot of it, in order to get these tournaments going, is they do require financial backing. Somebody has to pay at the end of the day. The golf course isn't just going to go, yeah, have it for free. Do whatever the hell you want. Our members will be fine. Don't worry, we'll smooth it over. The money's got to come from somewhere. And actually, talking of the Dreams Bed thing with Robert Rock, maybe that's the route that they need to be going down, because we all think, oh, okay, right, run a golf tour, or I'm going to run a junior golf tour. the first people I'm going to talk to are going to be Titleist or golf brands.
Mm.
Well, maybe actually we need to be looking away from that, because Dreams Beds, I imagine, are putting some money in. I don't know, but I would imagine, what can Dreams Bed actually offer the Robert Rock Tour? Do you know what I mean? They can't give him a putter.
I was going to say,
what are you going to do? Win a double bed?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Win a mattress.
Yes.
Oh, great.
All right, look, I think we've covered a fair amount on this podcast. There's so much more which we could talk about. I could talk about Bedfordshire. They run a junior tour in the winter, so they do something slightly different with them. Just only a few days ago, a junior tour contacted me about the fact that they run a junior tour pro-ams. I thought, I have run those events before, and they are fantastic. I mentioned about prizes whereby you get the opportunity to play with some top pros. Well, how about have a pro-am whereby you can have 2 or 3 kids playing with a pro, or a sponsor or whatever. So lots of different ways of doing this with junior golf tours. So right, I think we've pretty much all covered most of it then. I think we might have broken Aaron's record for the longest podcast we've ever done on
not possible.
No,
he wants to come back on, by the way,
yes.
so get ready for a long one.
Right. Just a bit heads up though for podcasts which are coming up. We're going to be doing ones on other sports and golf, so how it may or may not affect your the sport you play. A quick question for you, Olivia: do you play other sports?
I used to play a lot, but then I took golf as my main sport. I used to do like horse riding, gymnastics, swimming, you name it, I did it, but I don't anymore.
But very, very different sports there. So interesting to hear from different people who whether it affected their golf or vice versa, whether it actually helped them. So on that podcast, we've got Andrew Strauss, the former England cricket captain. He's going to be on the show. LET pro Emma Spitz, talking about how she used to play hockey on ice hockey and also used to do a bit of skiing. But the live guest is LET pro Cara Gaynor, who was a very, very good tennis player at a teenage right the way through, and she had the decision: do I go golf, do I go tennis? In the end, she took the route and went the professional golf route, and she is playing in the AIG Women's Open this week at Walton Heath. So bearing in mind that podcast is coming up in a couple of weeks' time, fingers crossed Cara does really well, and you never know, we might have a major winner live on our show in 2 weeks' time. Who knows?
If she wins, I hate to break it, I think she'll be too busy to come on the podcast. So.
You might be right, but anyway, look, we can dream, can't you? Other podcasts we're going to be doing one on turning professional as well. I don't know, is that something which you've considered, whether you wanted to turn professional as a golfer, Olivia?
Yeah, definitely. I'd definitely think about it in maybe couple years time, doing like the PGA maybe, or definitely like going through the players route as well. Yeah,
absolutely. So I know there are obviously different routes to go down. You can go on the playing route, you can go the PGA route, you could be a coach. So there are lots of different ways to that. Social media, we're going to do a big podcast on social media, and we're going to do a really important one as well on mental health in junior golf. That's going to be a real big one, that very serious subject to cover, but one important one which we need to cover. Right, massive thank you to Olivia and Ian, of course, and Stephen Gallacher for coming on the podcast this evening. We've been talking about junior golf tours. If you ever want to get in touch with us and find a little bit more information, then please do so, and we'll give you lots more information. Otherwise, we shall see you in a couple of weeks' time. Have a good evening.
Thank you.